allowing me to do backgrounds. So,
Oh, no.
hi world. Say hello.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Does it say that we're live?
Yeah.
We're
Great.
now live.
All right, let me grab the link. Oh, and then
Say
there's
hello.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Love it. All right, I'm grabbing our YouTube link. I'm posting it in the notes. I'm going to post the notes in the chat, and then I'm going to post it to Facebook and to LinkedIn so that the people know that we are live. But Ben, we are rolling, and it is over to you.
Okay, fantastic. Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in once again to Virtual Coffee with Ben. My name is Ben Blackman, and I am the Director of Development for RIDGE. That's Royal Innovation Design Group, which is a group of innovation consultants based in St. Petersburg, Florida. Now, before we get started, as always, I want to encourage you all to go to the RIDGE YouTube page and our Facebook page to hit the like button, subscribe, share our content. You can also schedule your own virtual coffee session with me if you want to talk about how we can help your company innovate more efficiently. So Virtual Coffee with Ben, for those of you that are new, is a web series that focuses on how companies innovate, strategically plan for the future, and create a strong culture for their employees. And I'm super excited to have our guest this morning, Leslie Hielema. Leslie is the founder and the CEO of Quantum Strategy Lab in Orlando. We also have Michelle Royal, the founder and chief innovation officer for RIDGE. And of course, we have Joran Oppelt, our returning champion. He is the director of creativity and innovation for RIDGE as well. Good morning to you all. We're going to start with Leslie. I've been doing some research on your background. I'm fascinated. So let me get this all straight. You have degrees in electrical engineering and physics. You spent 4 years as the president of the Orlando Chamber of Commerce, 4 years as the vice president of Florida Institute of Technology, 2 years as the head of transformational innovation at GuideWell. And 2 years ago, you started your own company, Quantum Strategy Lab. You're the CEO right now. How did all of these previous experiences lead you to where you are today, leading your own company? What can you tell us about that journey and about Quantum Strategy Lab?
Sure. I think I've always been like a new product development person. I think my just kind of personal mission is to bring forth innovations that elevate life for people, life for our planet. And so I think, I love sitting in the unseen, hunting for market opportunities, signals, customer needs, making sense of it, patterns, looking for, the hunger in terms of what people need. And then I love to flip over into making it seen and real, and then watching people actually use it. And so I think because I love to go back and forth between the two, I've always had a role in new product development. So we kind of I love asking questions. I'm kind of like that explorer, tell me more, what is it? But then I'm a builder and a maker. So as an engineer, I love to build stuff and make real stuff. But, I like the balance between the two. I studied electrical engineering. I was just mesmerized with quantum physics. And as a result of COVID, I've just been really diving deeper into quantum physics. And I began to look at quantum as a model for business. And it's amazing metaphor and analogy. And I see through quantum lens how we've been kind of creating for, only half of what's possible. And so I'm like, we need to bring in this other half of our reality. And what happens now when we begin using the qualities and principles and theories of quantum to create new products, business models? What does that look like? And so, I started Quantum Strategy Lab to help build better products that elevate life, and serve clients. And most of my clients are either they've been successful launching products, but now lately their products are not achieving the outcomes and results that they planned, and they don't know why. So I come in there and help them with that. Or they're getting ready to launch new products and they really want to optimize and make sure their go-to-market strategy is optimized, the product's going to be successful. So I help them validate product market fit. And then another group of clients are getting ready to look for someone to acquire them or invest in them, and they need to achieve higher valuation. So I come in there and really help with the product strategy, the roadmap, the portfolio, the technology plan, and help them get positioned to be worth more when investors look at them. So that's Quantum Strategy Lab. It lets me come back into all the processes that I love. As a technologist, I love finding ways to apply technology. So, the technology is not the end results. The technology is, a tool to help us leverage and do something in a new and innovative way. So I look at it that way. So Quantum Strategy Lab helps me pull all of that together and help people take their kind of vague ideas, and then I deliver a go-to-market strategy for them that really fits with the market, fits with their capabilities, fits with their resources. And we've kind of explored the quantum realm, a fuller realm of opportunity, a fuller realm of solutions. And so that's my premise behind Quantum Strategy Lab.
I love it. It's so unique. I tell you, I haven't heard of anybody who's really applied quantum physics to innovation and product development in the way that you have, which is just fascinating. So really interested to see some of the work that comes out of that with you and your clients. Now, I know, speaking of kind of collaborating, in the past, you had the opportunity to work with Michelle when you were working at Guidewell Innovation. So I'm curious how that relationship developed between you and Michelle, and what were the results of the work that you guys did together there?
Yeah, well, I have worked with Michelle and Ridge for over 10 years, and I have brought in Ridge into most of my organizations and used them for all kinds of different work. I've worked with them in economic development. I've worked with them in healthcare, mental health, even emerging technologies. And so what I found with Ridge, when they're Michelle's my go-to person when I have something to get done. I have to achieve. Someone said, we need you to kind of pursue this area. And I kind of like a vague notion of where I need to go, but I don't know well enough. So Michelle helps me get from here to here always in the most innovative way. And the reason I need Ridge is because most of the things I do are either a complex ecosystem where there's lots of elements to the problem. It's a very complex system, or it's so new, I really don't have best practices or models to look at to figure out how to do it. So when I really have to do something very new that hasn't been done and is very complex, Michelle and Ridge has helped me really create some of the most innovative solutions I could never have done with my current thinking or the models that I had available to me.
So Leslie, in quantum terms, is Michelle an electron microscope, a particle accelerator, an atom smasher? What is she?
Oh, I love that. So, there's quantum physics has we're particles, right? So we are individuals that collide into each other. And we're individuals that each bring our unique gifts to the world. But in quantum physics, you are also a wave at the same time. And we are waves and energies that interact with each other. And based on those interactions, we create new things. And so I think Michelle understands kind of that both worlds, and that we are more when we honor both elements of who we are as human beings. I think a lot of the world today, we solve for the particle. It's linear, it's mechanical, it's kind of Newtonian, but it's only a tiny piece. But what happens when we learn how to access a greater realm of potential? Because quantum physics is, there's unlimited potential. And if you choose to reach into it and access it, you can find anything you want. And so she's my quantum guru that moves our thinking and our perspectives way beyond and into just greater potential.
Michelle, how do you remember the start of the relationship with Leslie?
Yeah, one of the energies that I like to, and I don't mean like woo-woo energy, since the day that Leslie and I met, which was at a technology conference, which was a local ecosystem supporter of technologies. I just returned from the European Union and worked on a project supporting, really just expanding awareness around technology startups and technology success in Tampa Bay. And that's where I met Leslie as she was the president of Orlando Inc., the Orlando Chamber of Commerce. And since the very first day that we met to today, we've always had a very healthy creative tension where there was always a sense of mutual respect for the education and background that we both came from, and this fearlessness to face and integrate both what is happening in the very human personal path and personal missions and personal purpose, alongside with what is business and directive and financial, so that again, those structures of what are common business structures like finance sheets, all the way to how does that marry with this very elusive creative process. And that creative tension has been one of the greatest gifts that I've received from a working relationship with her. And as she said, we partnered on expanding the idea of innovation and entrepreneurship and supporting the idea of innovation and entrepreneurship, not only throughout the Orlando region, but Tampa Bay as well. We worked on a women-centric, and I say women-centric because it wasn't just about women, but a women-centric business center, which
I forgot about that one too. We did that too.
Huge. That was a huge project, which had a very small goal of serving roughly 40 women and having 10 events. And it ended up serving over 2,000 people. There were somewhere around 40 events, and it became a mix of both 50% men and 50% women, because the business processes, or just the process that was driving the growth and the awareness and the integration and the insights and the innovation of those startups, she talked about a hunger or a desire or a need. So those mechanisms were really ignited. And then GuideWell Innovation, which was one of your questions, which was the ancillary product. That was the third wave of work that we've done together, was a healthcare innovation lab. And Leslie could see she was hired because she could see a new future for how they were integrating with their partners, how they were engaging their partners, how they were solving large, complex global problems, national problems. And they were facing what is one of the most wicked problems, which is mental health in healthcare. And that 3-day event yielded not only deeper relationships and partnerships with their current partners, but an executive team who felt compelled to contribute throughout the entire conference experience. And professionals who had been serving in mental health for over 30 years said it was one of the most empathetic, human, and professionally insightful experiences they had ever had, which is saying something when you have mental health professionals saying that they had the most empathetic experience that they've ever had. And so I think that what we make as a dream team is that structure of, we need to achieve this goal within these very real world guidelines. And then when we get together, the creative tension, our ability to battle ideas together and not take anything personally, but stand side by side to look at the real problem and come up with really ingenuity and real innovation, brings forward a whole new pathway and process to solve problems.
I'd love to add to that, Michelle, in this concept of, what can we be doing in mental health? It is, we kind of mapped out, there's like 15 different stakeholders. There is about, 50 different broken perceived parts of the process and interconnections that are broken. And every single person brought in their view of what the problem was and their view of the solution. How do you get an ecosystem to move forward together when you have so many diverse perspectives? So it's really an immersive experience where Michelle, we actually were in the shoes of someone with mental illness. We had people there with mental illness, all the experts. So we had to spend a couple days in their shoes, and we mapped out hundreds of journeys. Then we could begin to see things we hadn't seen before as a group, and new things began to arise because we're experiencing them. We're seeing the data, we're seeing how we're mapping things out. And so it not only shifted everyone's perspective into a more unified view, it got everyone centered on the key common problems that we all had the levers, the capacity to move forward. We would have never found, 4 key areas where we can work together any other way, because everyone didn't see it. We would have been arguing about, I think it's this, I think it's this, but we didn't. We moved together as this unified force. And when we were done, we were beyond collaborative, but we were interdependent. We were connected, and we saw the world in the same way, which, is how you make movement. So that's an additional thing that happened as a result of, working with Ridge and Michelle.
And I could go on and on about how that happens. I do want to touch on Leslie's quantum strategies, and then how that was, because it's not like quantum strategies was just invented. This is a process that she's been playing with, or she's been working on for years and years and years and developing. So to that point, all of the individuals who were present at that event had hunches or ideas. So the 4 things that we ended up working on, when you have a collective that looks at those and says, oh, well, that's kind of obvious. And if it was so obvious, how come there wasn't investment in it before? What we learned was that all of the funding and insurance and mechanisms for support for mental health lay in crisis. That when it has gone almost beyond recall, and in the journey, it is far after an individual has had either a mental break or has had multiple trauma experiences, or has gone without treatment for a long period of time, when crisis happens, right? So it's about crisis management way down the journey. And one of the key insights was around the power of prevention, which seems obvious. It seems obvious, like, oh, of course prevention would allow you to, address the mental health issues sooner. The problem is that there wasn't the business case for the investment. There wasn't the awareness of the true impact in reduced cost over time. There wasn't this awareness of reduced impact, negative impact over time. And when you have and that's the power of being able to see hundreds of potentialities in an emotional wavelength context on a journey, that all of the sudden you can place the need, the actual desire, which was about prevention, into a physical structure called a financial business case, right? So that's
Absolutely.
how you marry what is the emotional journey and this ideation and what feels like an obvious answer into, there was no business case made for it. Right. You couldn't evaluate the true extreme or the nature of what would have happened if, because you were only addressing crisis and crisis management going forward. So that was one example of how GuideWell and healthcare transformed that affects policy, legislation, how insurance plans are ultimately formulated, the initiatives that they fund and support. It affects the entire business model of the insurance industry. It affected the entire business model of legislation. It affected the business model of the mental health institutions themselves and how they chose to work together. Mm-hmm. Just a small thing. Thing.
I think it kind of also, it kind of healed the system and the interconnections, because I think, we have a lot of disparate organizations, but it's actually a system at the end of the day. And so if the interactions and the connections aren't functioning properly, the system does not work properly. So I also found that it did repair some of the system issues. And I'll give you a tangible example. One thing that arose was, in terms of priority, is that people wanted tools to self-manage their symptoms and more access to peer support. And that came out, that bubbled up loud and clear, and everyone saw a different sense of it and a different way of solving the problem. And so through that, new kinds of partnerships and systems were created, and we were working together in all new ways to kind of leverage some of these kind of critical viewpoints that we had.
Yeah, and I remember the conversation we had, the word self-help was used, which there's an entire industry of self-help and self-help books. And I remember saying, it's not self-help. This is about a deep form of treatment where an individual is empowered, not doing a self-help type thing. It was a whole new industry was being created around self-treatment and, like she said, the self-managed process of a very empowered process for managing that.
Yeah.
Ben, do you have another? We could literally go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say we're going to have a part 2 of this interview. I was actually thinking that you guys would be great on a reality TV show. Just get the two of you guys together and tackle the world's challenges.
100%.
You're on the same wavelength. That's great.
I know. I wanted to comment on something Michelle said. People think energy is woo-woo because we can't see it. But I've been studying it a lot more from a physics standpoint. And, there are actually, you can measure a frequency of an emotion. It's great work done by Dr. David Hawkins, Power versus Force. So in my processes, I'm like, well, we have the scene, which we're really comfortable for, but let's really get solid around energy. You guys can feel energy when you walk in a room, right? You can feel stress, you can feel anger. So I'm trying to consider more about the influences of energy in what we create from a more tactical standpoint and not make it woo-woo, because the unseen is important about the seen. And we can know and sense the unseen as we
I lost Leslie. Her energy got zapped away.
She just got frozen in time in this potentiality.
Leslie just entered the realm of
we can really think through.
Leslie, you froze.
Can you hear me now?
We got
you. Hear me?
We're back.
Unseen.
So I have been experimenting, like what happens when you design with the concepts of interconnection, interdependence. What if you design for a particular energy state, like an energy state produced by the concept of abundance? So I'm developing products right now. I want the customer to feel abundant. When they use the products, I want the others that they interact with to feel abundance. And so I know it sounds woo-woo, but I'm actually believing, products at the end of the day are how we make someone feel when you think about it. You solve a functional need, but it's really how they feel. I feel more effective. I feel more efficient. I feel happier. I feel healthier. And so, thinking, I'm trying to I want to kind of think about vibrations and frequency and energy, and here's the weird thing. We are 99.9999999% space or energy. If you put all of our bodily materials, it's probably like a drop, and so if we are energy, why do we dismiss it in terms of what we create? So I'm experimenting with energy as we design in our design principles and what energies we want to create. And then I'm saying, can we create products that actually spread? I think a lot of our models right now are created on fear, scarcity, transactions, more, faster, better, cheaper. But my new design principles, I'm really writing a book around, are what if we design from higher principles, from abundance, from joy, from higher awareness, and how do we tactically help companies move into this space? I'm trying to prove this in from business models, from profitability, and looking at value exchange in a whole new way, beyond bartering, beyond cash, beyond social impact. I feel like our business systems and models are kind of broken. They're based on just a small portion. What happens when we do bring our higher selves in? What happens when we bring the whole potential of uncertainty and the unknown, which is COVID's kind of reminded us that we can't control the future and it's uncertain. but we pretended we had a linear controllable. We created all our systems, banking, business, education, to make us feel like we had certainty, but it's actually an illusion. So let's just sit in the illusion of uncertainty. Let's tap into the creative power or creative potential of uncertainty. And let's put, how do we design things in this reality of uncertainty? How do we achieve profitability? How do we create abundance? How do we create sustainability? And what are all those principles now we need to design for our businesses and our products for? Because our businesses are really our own potential tool to make this a better place, to raise the frequency of how we think and feel and how we treat each other. So I want to kind of really explore, our businesses aren't for economic transactions, and then we kind of go over here and do our volunteer work to change the world. How do they integrate? And how can we align so that everyone experiences a new form of abundance?
Amen.
Amen. And we are definitely going to have a part 2 to the interview, because there's so many things that we would love to continue talking about, including the pandemic and some trends that you see for later this year and next year. Before we sign off, though, I do want to allow you a chance, Leslie. Where can people that are interested in Quantum Strategy Lab, where can they get more information about all the great work that you're doing?
I am getting ready to launch my new website next week, quantumstrategylab.com. In it, I have my new processes, the basics of my quantum design principles. It's similar to, maybe I'll call it a value prop canvas or business model canvas, but it's really quantum product design. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, Leslie Hielema. Just message me there, and I'd love to connect if this resonates with anyone.
Absolutely. Well, I'd like to thank you again, Leslie, for joining us. That was Leslie Hielema of Quantum Strategy Lab. I also want to thank Michelle Royal and Jordan Appel for joining me again today. And if you're interested in learning more about Ridge and all the work that we're doing, you can again go to ridge.com. That's RIDG.com. You can also go to our YouTube page and our Facebook page to get more content like this. And we will see you next week. Maybe we'll bring Leslie back. I hope so. But I hope everyone is safe out there. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks, Leslie. Great to see you.
Bye.